There you go. Let me ask you something. Is your sprinkler system doing this? Is your indexing valve leaking and spewing water everywhere? Well, in today's video, we're going to show you how to repair this, and it's actually pretty simple, and it all starts right now. Now, in this particular case here, we might have a potential O-ring leak. That's a very common failure mode. But we also know that there's a tiny crack along the corner here that you can barely see. Sometimes the little cracks aren't visible unless it's dry and you're right up close to it. Okay, now check this out. So if you're looking at the middle of the screen there, that's right where the crack. And what's interesting here is that you can barely even see that there's a crack there, but yet that's where all of the water was gushing out at 60 psi, and that's where you're going to be spending a fortune in water bills due to lost water. So first thing you want to do is cut off all of that water supply going to the sprinkler. It's close enough. And channel locks, man, usually they go pretty wide. Okay, so this one was really stuck, and actually that fitting there was too wide for the channel locks to even cover it. Yeah, see, so the channel locks weren't even large enough. You'd need one of those big Bertha pairs to get that one to work. So here we just used a C-clamp. Yeah. Yep, nothing ever works like those 2-minute videos on Home Depot's website. I get a lot of comments from people that'll come in and go, man, you just wasted 10 minutes of my time. You could have done this in a 2-minute video, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you know, I show it as it happens. You can never predict everything that goes wrong. Go watch your 2-minute video in Home Depot. So now that everything is uncoupled, we can then take our screwdriver and start loosening all of those Phillips head screws. Engage. Now you want to make sure that you understand which type you have. There's a mini and there's a standard size on these caps. This is the standard size. It's got the 8 screws, and the mini will have 6. And then as you can see, the new part does not come with the center section here. So you're going to have to remove the old parts here and transfer it to your new cap. So the cam is keyed, so you just have to turn it around until you get it in the right position there that it will come off. Now you pull the cap off there, here's your stem. That O-ring looks pretty good to me. And there's your disc inside there. Disc looks fine, and we're putting the new cap right back on there. And make sure, because we're screwing into plastic here, we want to be on very little torque. Cap is back on. And we'll just torque them down a little bit, because remember, you have that O-ring under there and you want to make sure it's compressed so that no water leaks out. So the indexing cam is keyed, and remember, the same way we took it off, you put it right back on. Now the cap goes on there, and you got the 4 screws that you just tighten right back into place. And now we screw the fitting back on to couple everything back together. Okay, now we want to perform a leak test.
Ready?
Yep. So we're opening the gate valve now and allowing the water to come back into the system, and we're turning on the system now. This pump is actually pumping the water from that lake that you see back there. Now we're indexing it to the next zone to make sure we don't get water on ourselves here, but yeah, you can see there's no leaks. There's no water coming out of there. You want to let it run a few minutes and just make sure. And an even better sanity check would be to wait till later when it's completely dry and then test it again. Because you still have water on the side there, and you want to make sure, well, was that a leak from now, or was that a leak from when we were working on it? So there it is up close. You can see there's no water squirting out. We don't even see any oozing out. You could also dry it off with a cloth and just make sure that you're not confusing any new leaks with any old leaks. And there's our sprinklers going nice and perfect there, full bore. Yeah, if you have leaks at your indexing valve, it could affect the rest of the system too. Now that was more of a spraying leak, which could drop pressure on some of your other heads. So that's why it's important to get those fixed right away. And even the dribble leaks can be bad too, because over the course of weeks, you could be wasting a lot of money. And that's why sometimes some of the cities don't allow indexing valves to be used in the newer installations because they're inefficient, they leak, they're very problematic. They prefer the individual zones. And the individual zones, I think, work better for you anyway when you're using the more modern smart sprinkler systems. They want to control one zone directly and then another zone directly. If you try to hook up these newer smart sprinklers like what we're using today onto these older indexing valves, it's problematic, because how do you control how long your hedges are going to be watered if you don't know where the index is at, where it's pointing to? And every time it shuts off, it points to the next valve, and you don't always know where you're at when that happens. So that's why indexing valves are problematic for working with your newer, fancier, smart sprinkler systems. Many people will actually convert their old indexing valves to newer, separate multi-valve setups. It's not a whole lot of extra work. I mean, look, everything's right there, and you just run a few extra wires to your new controller, and it's perfect. That's really the better way to go. Okay, so doing our post-mortem here on the old cap, it actually looks pretty healthy inside. The O-ring is in pretty good shape to me. It doesn't look like there's anything that would cause a problem with the O-ring. All right, so if you look here, this is the type of system we're talking about that you want to have, where you have all separate valves for each zone here. And they're all individually wired and controlled. See how they all feed in here? And this is our Ratio 3 Wi-Fi enabled smart sprinkler controller. Now, we did a review on this a few months ago. We'll put a link to that down on the description for you, in the video description. You definitely want to check that out, because if you haven't looked into the more modern smart sprinkler controllers, you really need to. This is such an incredible system here, because this actually goes through Wi-Fi, gets on the internet, and pulls down the weather reports, and it knows whether or not to even turn on the sprinklers here at all. And it notifies you when it's skipping the water cycle, which is really nice. So having them individually controlled like this is what makes them a lot easier to program, because you can make these hedges come on for only 5 minutes, and maybe your lawn for 15 minutes and the garden for 10 minutes. A lot easier to do when they're individual like that. Well, I certainly hope you're finding this video informational, and if you are, do us a favor. Would you please give us a thumbs up down below that tells us that you like us? And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, man, why haven't you? You've seen all the great content we have on here, home repairs around your house, engineering disasters. We cover all sorts of tool reviews for you. We cover remodeling of your kitchens and your bathrooms and tiling and flooring and all sorts of other great videos. So make sure you click that subscribe button down below. And when you do that, click the little gray bell icon next to it. That tells YouTube to alert you every time we upload a video, because you don't want to miss one of our videos. Well, that's it for this one, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.